Hello and welcome to this new video. Today I'm talking to Adrien and, well, can you introduce yourself?
So, hello, hi YouTube, I guess. I'm Adrien Dittrick. I'm not actually a professional game dev, it's only a hobby for me, but I've been doing it for a very long time. I think I started using Game Maker about 15 years ago. That was a while ago. I'm 26, by the way. And now I mostly take part in game jams, and I have a few ongoing projects with various teams. Like I rarely stick to one project. If like one of the games I'm most known for is called Escape from Lavender Town. It's a screamer which knows your name and tries to kill you. Please play it. And also, there's another one called Nintendo Nightmare, and then I stopped working on Nintendo IP and started making my own games. So yeah, that's about it for me.
So, in a nutshell, what kind of game are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about contained monsters. Well, the title was supposed to be like a working title, but then we're probably sticking with it, contained monsters. So the gist of it is your main character is a monster summoner. Whenever you press the enter key at any time during the game, you will summon like a 50 meters tall monster. That's the main mechanic. And you must make sure to only summon it in relevant situations. For instance, if you see an enemy monster destroying your city, then sure, now's the moment to summon your monster. But if you're let's say at a family dinner, this is not the correct moment to summon your monster, but you can do it anyway if you want to. If you feel like ruining your home, that happens.
And what happens if you summon it at the family dinner? What will the
Well,
monster do?
your mom will get angry. Moms getting angry in this game has an effect that permanently decreases your stats, so you must be careful. You must take care of your mom. Very important. And so your mom would get angry. Then your stepfather would probably call the army because there's like a giant monster destroying their house, and he works more or less with the army, more or less with the cops. So a bunch of tanks are going to show up and shoot your monster. And in general, you're going to have a very bad time.
So, not call your monster during a family dinner.
Yeah, don't do that. Well, it depends. Like if your mom is managing the dinner, don't do it. But there may be points later in the game where one of your goals in the game is to make sure society becomes accepting of monster summoners, to make moral codes evolve and all that. And so there might be a point where destroying your house with a giant monster is just like a normal occurrence, and people will just ask you to go see a therapist or something, and then you'll be done with it. Like there are many ways society can evolve depending on your actions.
Okay, totally normal. Monsters destroying your house.
Also, this is a world in which people are kind of resilient. Usually, if a kaiju punches you twice, you will end up in a hospital for a week, but that's about it. You probably won't die unless someone is specifically wanting you dead. You probably won't die by accident. And also, the houses are built in such a way the houses are built of individual blocks that are easy to rebuild if ever they get destroyed, because this is a world where they used to random monsters being summoned everywhere. So the houses are monster proof for a while.
And why did you choose to make a game like this?
Let's see, when did this start? Well, first I kind of wanted to make a game about social issues. Like mostly I have a few LGBTQ friends and I wanted to make a game with them. And so I thought what kind of situation would you be in if you're that kind of person? And then I thought that it would be fun if instead of having to come out as gay or trans, you'd have to come out as a monster summoner. Obviously, people don't like you because because of prejudice and stuff like that. But still, you want to be part of society. You want to find your place. And so this is when I started developing that game. And also I was getting out of a very intense Pokemon phase, and I just wanted to make a game like Pokemon, but not quite Pokemon. And so you have a bunch of kids summoning giant monsters and having friendly, non-lethal duels with them.
So the monsters can be used as Pokemon.
Yes, except you only have one monster. You can't actually switch. And there are other restrictions, like you have more attacks. The monsters usually have more attacks, and so the main mechanic is that while your two monsters are fighting, there's one in the background and one in the foreground. You have to make sure you dodge the aftermath of the attack. So, like, one part of the game is strategy, like you have to choose the right moves. You have to choose the moves that you think are efficient against the enemy, and also you have to try to not get hit by falling debris or by lasers or whatever. You have to move around the map. You can also collect a bunch of power-ups to make your character stronger. And in this world, there are like anti-monster guns lying around everywhere that you can use to shoot monsters. They don't do a lot of damage. Like, as a human, you probably won't do lots of damage against monsters, but you can help.
Okay. Did the game become what you originally planned it to become before the start of development?
We're still kind of mid-development, and it's already starting to look like what I had in mind. Like, I'm quite happy with how it is now. It's still lacking plot. Like, mostly there's lots of gameplay. You can already play a demo. But characters don't really speak. There's like one cutscene in the beginning of the game. It's just your rival getting mad at you and you choosing to summon your monster or not. But then after that, it's just free roam, talk to people, get them angry, get them to summon their monsters and fight them. There's not much story to that for now. But I hope it will be improved soon. I actually have a queer writer on my team, so I hope they'll do a great job at narrating everything. I guess at writing everything.
What inspired you to become an indie game developer?
I've always wanted to be a game dev. And at some point, like, I had a sort of internship. I was really young. I had a sort of internship in a graphical design, like, sort of company, which showed me lots of how the video game industry worked. And I kind of decided that this wasn't the kind of job I wanted to do, because you kind of work as a corporate drone, and it's really, and also they sell you dreams and don't pay you a lot. Like, you work in video games, so of course it doesn't matter if you don't get paid a lot. So I decided that this wasn't the kind of work I was gonna do, and well, right now my main occupation is I'm actually a PhD student and trying to become a teacher, and I only make games on the side as a hobby, and most of them are freeware actually.
For what platforms do you intend to release this game?
So most of my games are PC, like they're PC games. I don't have a Switch export or anything like that, but maybe one day. But mostly it's for PC. And I started using Game Maker Studio, so 1.4 and version 2, like a few years ago, when it came out. I think it was 2 years ago. And I use the HTML5 module extensively, which means that my games can be exported to browser. And I think that browser games are like, they're the future of indie games, because there's no need to download anything, and it works on most platforms. I even have some of my HTML5 games are even mobile compatible. Like, I have a Pac-Man game that you can try. But yeah, it's mostly compatibility. So browser games, that's what I'm doing.
What do you think is your best attitude in life?
Best attitudes. Well, I think I probably missed that. Best attitude. Like, I'm really good at cramming things at the last minute and managing my time poorly, but in ways that eventually work out. So that's good. What best attitude? I don't know. Never really thought about it. Like, I don't actually panic. Maybe that's the best attitude I have.
Yeah, if you
Like
start
I don't.
panicking, everything will just get worse
Yeah.
instead of better.
Yeah, I tend to not panic. I actually tend to work much better when I'm supposedly under pressure. So that's good.
For how long have you been working on this project so far, and how much more time do you think you need?
So according to my latest devlog, it's been about 3 months that I've started this. I've been working also with other like artists, so which will probably be linked, I guess. Who joined about a month ago, I think. And this project has no real deadline, but I hope to have something released by next year. Most of us on this project are here like we're doing free volunteer work, and this game is not going to be paid for, so it tends to slow down development times a bit. And also, we all have side projects, so yeah, just don't expect anything fast.
What is your day-to-day process for making a game like this?
Oh, day to day. Uh, my day-to-day process is I do nothing for like 2 weeks, and then twice a month I'm like, oh hey, I haven't worked on my game, let's do it, and then I just work on it 2 days straight, and then I don't touch again for 2 weeks. Like it's kind of my process. And about how I develop it, it's mostly just I play obviously lots of video games, and I just try to integrate things I've learned from observing those games into whatever I'm making. That's mostly my process. I just copy things.
And will that be the same for potential future games you will make?
Yeah, but probably be like this all my life. I think it's something that's really like procrastination is really ingrained in me. So yes.
What were the biggest inspirations for making this game?
Well, Pokemon for once. I use a palette swapper, which is kind of how Pokemon Yellow worked, where whenever you go to a different city, the color scheme changes, even though it's still Game Boy graphics. So you only have 4 colors at any given time, but the chosen colors can change. So yeah, Pokemon Yellow is definitely an inspiration. And then there's a bit of Undertale, of course. I feel like these days everyone is trying to make an Undertale clone, so of course there's a bit of Undertale in like the plot and the bullet hell mechanics. You don't see any bullet hells for now, but they will be added. And obviously I have a bunch of inspirations from like various kaiju games and stuff, like Godzilla and how do you call it, Pacific Rim. I think Pacific Rim is a big inspiration.
And what do you think that makes this game different from other games?
Different. You have a real-time. When I start going on, you have a turn-by-turn battle system happening like in a plane, like from foreground to background, and while this battle is happening, you're actually trying to run around the map and not get killed in real time. Also, it's kind of a turn-by-turn battle system, but where you as a player have a few asynchronous actions that you can take at any given time, while most things happen in a sort of fixed cutscene.
And what is the most interesting part about this game?
Like I would say the story, but of course the story isn't written yet. But for now, I think the in the current demo, the most interesting part of the game is that you can win a battle in many different ways. First of all, you can win a battle without even summoning your monster. Like there is an option where you can just run around the map, activate laser cannons, and try not to die. And if you do this about 10 times, you end up winning the fight. You can also rely entirely on your kaiju. You can let your monster just punch the other monster repeatedly until it dies. You can also, kind of synergize. Like you can try to combine your attacks with your monster's attacks. I also have plans later in development to let you mount your monster, which you can end up directly controlling how your monster moves, which lets him dodge attacks and stuff like that. And also, I think the funniest way to win a battle is to place your. Right now, I'm probably going to patch it out, but right now the funniest way is to place yourself in front of the enemy trainer, the enemy summoner, and have his own monster punch him. Like that's the funniest way. You just have the guy killed by his own monster.
Okay. What game engine are you using, and why did you decide to use this one?
Well, I'm using GameMaker right now, GameMaker Studio 2, because that's the engine I've been working with all my life, and it does everything. So yeah, this is another thing. I'll probably never stick out of GameMaker because it's just this. It's poorly optimized, but it's definitely the fastest way I know to make games. Like it's just you can't beat GameMaker in terms of development times. Like they're so fast. Then the game itself isn't really fast, but you need compromises.
What setbacks did you encounter during the project, and do you feel like you learned anything from them?
Well, the setbacks is mostly the time constraints and working with a team because, well, we are a few people on this, but our work is really sporadic. Like sometimes my artist draws an amazing monster, and then nothing happens for a month, and then sometimes I add an entirely new mechanic in the game and bunch of levels and stuff, and then I don't do anything for a month. So it's a good dynamic, but I could see this be slowing down development times a lot. And if I don't think I've learned any valuable experience yet. I guess I'll have to answer that one when the game is finished.
If you can advise a new indie game developer, what will you tell them?
Make a minimal viable product really fast. Like as soon as you can, make a game where you can win and you can lose, and just iterate all your mechanics from that way. Because this is the best way to release things. And whenever you release, whenever you publish something, this is when you get the dopamine rush, which will then make you code more things, make more games. So just make a minimal viable product. That's the first thing you should focus on if you're making a new game.
What do you feel is success for an indie game developer?
I don't I personally don't think that you should aspire for success as a goal if you're an indie developer, because from what I've seen, it's pretty random. If your game goes viral enough, maybe you'll have success. It's pretty much a question of luck. If you're an indie developer, your success depends entirely on luck and a bit on your skills. But I've seen a few of my games which I have put no effort into, like Escape from Lavender Town. That game it took me 4 hours to make, and it's my most played game ever, which I'm kind of ashamed of. While most of my projects where I put lots of effort, they're not really played that much. So it's a question of luck, and I'd say if you want your game to be successful, you need a good marketing budget. You need a good advertising campaign, and if you do that, you become a AA or a AAA studio. You're no longer, in my mind, if you find ways to pay people to advertise for your game, you're not an indie developer. That's just my opinion, my prejudice, I guess.
What resources would you recommend to other indie game developers?
Well, that depends what kind of developer. Like, if you want to rely strictly on coding, I'd say use GameMaker. It's great. Also, if you want to make some music, if you want to try composing a bit of music, the best tool I found is Reaper. It really changed my life. It's a tool called Reaper.fm. It's almost free. It's $60 with an unlimited free license like WinRAR. and it's really easy to make impressive things with it. So, yeah, it's really easy to make impressive things with it. So, yeah, if you're into music, Reaper.fm, I recommend it.
What do you think about the current marketing strategies in the indie game industry?
Oh, I hate them. That's what I said earlier. Like, I'm not convinced in. I think marketing strategies are great, but if you like rely on marketing strategies, given that the current state of the market is really like there's lots and lots of indie games everywhere, the market is oversaturated. I'm pretty sure you've heard about this before. I think if you have good marketing strategies, you're probably not an indie game like company. You're just like a regular game studio, like which is nice. You know, there are some AA, AAA games which are really, really good, but then in my mind, you're not an indie game studio anymore.
You know what my job is, right?
I know what your job is. I know it's exactly your job, but like, it's just that sure, I have a hard time seeing the indie part in all this, but it's just because of probably frustration for never making it far. That's just me. But yeah, well, that was your question. That was my answer. But yeah.
Yeah, well, since I do it, my opinion is a bit different on some parts.
Yeah, I know that. I know I have a weird opinion.
No, it's not a weird opinion, but there is a difference between the marketing budget an AAA game has and the average marketing budget of an indie game developer, because an indie game developer often doesn't have like
a budget.
Yeah, most of them are poor. They offer a percent share.
Yeah.
But most indie game developers that actually have a budget for something so minimal that you can't call it like a super marketing budget. It would just be enough to make back what they invested in marketing.
Yeah, so you kind of agree with me then.
Well, since you only make the costs for the marketing itself back.
Yeah, well, I guess.
So it would just make sure that a few thousand people play your game. That's all.
Yeah. That's also. I think that as an indie developer, maybe I'm going to sound a bit harsh, but the best thing you can get is exposure, because exposure is also what will get you players. And if you're selling your game, well, exposure means more players, means more money.
Yeah.
Like develop things. So yeah.
And most indie game developers that just go for it, they go to their boss like, I don't need your job anymore, I'm going away now. And then they
become broke.
and then they start with indie developing, and they get a little bit more poor and more and more, and at some point they need to find a job or they will become homeless.
Yeah.
And I have even seen stories of indie game devs to become homeless.
Yeah. Well, in my case, I've decided that food is important, and since food is important, a steady job is important. So, well, hence the whole research and teacher thing that I'm doing. It takes a lot of time, but then my free time is used to make games, so it's fine, among other things.
Yeah, but you are not hungry. You don't have to be scared that you will be homeless next year.
Exactly.
And if you get successful as an indie game developer, you can always just...
Yeah, I thought about this, but then again, I think like if you're in a situation where you need the money to survive, you will find a way to make it work. Because otherwise you starve. In my case, I know that maybe I can like become successful, but it's not a problem if it waits like 10 years, 15 years. I can wait. I'm a patient person.
That's a good thing. A lot of indie devs should take an example for that. Even if it's just a job for a few hours per week, just enough to buy food and pay your rent.
Just eat.
Eat.
Also, related, when you're doing a game jam, please take care of your body. You have to sleep. It says 48 hours. I'm gonna tell you a secret. I've taken part in lots of game jam. You're not supposed to dev for 48 hours straight. You're supposed to eat. You're supposed to sleep. You're supposed to exercise a bit. Please do that.
I was always expecting that the indie game devs that do game jams have a wife that would feed them.
Or that works, but like make sure your wife tells you to go to sleep too. That's important.
There's caffeine pills for that.
Yeah.
As long as you don't do game jams every week.
Oh god, I do like about 2 jams a month, so I would be dead if I didn't sleep during game jams.
Yeah, if you do that many game jams, I can imagine that. Where do
Well,
you
actually, yeah.
where do you see the indie game market going within the next few years?
So I see a few like possibilities. First of all, well, Article 13 has changed lots of things in like into like intellectual property laws, which I think that most indie devs, when they start making indie games, they're not gonna start making their own stuff. They're gonna start by making a Mario game. They're gonna start making a Pac-Man game, and I can see a potential future in which this becomes like completely impossible with DMCA's flying around and all. And this would probably slow down like the industry a bit, because you would have less people interested in making games, because they would have their dreams crushed by Nintendo as soon as they start making the game. So like I think that the indie game market is going to like become full of like old people, like older and older people, maybe in my age group actually, and yeah, that's about it. Or it's just gonna keep oversaturating until it becomes clear to everyone that being an indie developer is not a stable situation. Or I could see other like things depending on which country you live in, because like there are some political like law projects about universal basic income and stuff like that. And if this happens, if the universal basic income happens, I think it would be really like helpful for like artists everywhere, and this includes game devs, because the earlier problem we talked about, starving to death, because like this would be solved if everyone has some kind of basic income, I think. So yeah, it all depends on like actual market laws, which I understand nothing about. So yeah, those are the futures I see for indie games.
Is there a AAA studio you would work for if you could?
Nope, none. This studio does not exist. It's not my job. Like I know that I don't have the required like how do you call it, formation. I didn't go through the proper courses to become a designer, and being a designer is really the only position I could see myself working at, because otherwise, like I could work as a developer. I think I have the skills for that, but then I think it would be a horrible job for me, just coding every day, and the crunch times which are imposed on me. This is something I can't do. I prefer staying indie. Also, there are some studios which I think should stop existing, like EA, stuff like that, microtransactions. I think that those studios are not making games; they're making money-making machines, which is something I don't like. But
EA
then
is
again, I don't
actually a
like money.
publisher that don't develop games.
Yeah, it's the same thing. They buy developers and then they ruin them. That's like, well, mostly that's me. My weird stances too. Then I'm going political, I know.
Have you ever worked for other gaming companies?
Not gaming companies per se, but I did have that internship I talked about. It's not real work. I wasn't even paid for it. Can't remember the name though. Like it was a really long time ago. But no, I've never worked for a gaming company.
Did you do any gaming education at school, or did you learn the whole development process on your own?
I think I'm mostly self-taught. I used GameMaker on my own, and I never took any game development classes. But there are some like currently I'm pursuing an electrical engineering career, so I was into research, and now I'm moving more towards teaching. But I'm more or less staying in electrical engineering. And I think that some of the things I learned there were actually really useful for my game development practices. For instance, you learn lots about motion control and control theory in general, and this is something that I apply in my animations. Most of my animations are actually procedural animations where I just I write a few keyframes and then my physics engine does the rest of the animation. And I think that electrical engineering in general has helped me in those aspects. Also, you get to code a lot.
Where did you grow up?
France mostly. I've lived in France all my life, and I grew up in various cities, mostly Marseille, and now I'm in the Paris suburbs. I currently live south of Paris.
Okay, you don't sound French at all.
Yeah, I'm actually half American, but given the current president we have, I tend to not dwell too much on that. maybe I'll tell people I'm American again, in a few years, I hope.
Well, it's actually a compliment because French people often don't speak English that well. It's
Oh
really,
yeah, well, yeah,
really
I've
bad.
like my dad is American. He's been talking in English for like as long as I can remember. Like so, I've learned English and French from a very young age.
Well, that's
Hence
a
the
good thing. I
lack
was
of
only
accent.
raised in Dutch, and I had to learn English when I was already a teenager. It's really stupid.
Yeah, well,
What were your childhood interests?
oh god. Uh, that also depends on like when you define childhood. Uh,
Somewhere
Mostly.
between baby and turning 18.
Okay, yeah, that's actually also my definition of childhood. So I was, I think, always interested in telling stories, regardless of the format. I did some writing, some drawing, video game development. I think I started that when I was 10 or something. And I also even had a few audio stories. I have a friend with like a recorder. We used to right. We had a whole series of audio stories, like a sort of podcast before podcasts were cool. So yeah, my main also I do a lot of role play, and this those role plays involve writing like character sheets and writing scenarios in general, writing the stories, and this is also something I consider as storytelling. So yeah, I guess that's my main thing. It's storytelling, but in many different media.
What is your favorite video game of all time?
My favorite video game of all time. But I'd probably answer something dumb like Legend of Zelda or something like that. But even not even really that good at Zelda. I think that Pokemon had the most impact on me, like in terms of aesthetics, gameplay, whatever, everything. But I don't think I have a favorite video game of all time. But yeah, it would mostly be I like Nintendo things. So yeah, that's about it. Also, yeah. Well, so no, yeah. I'd say yeah. If you ask me what my favorite game is, I'll say Pokemon in general.
And what is your favorite video game of this year and why?
Wait, when did XCOM 2 come out? I think
Probably
like
not this year, I believe that's a few
yeah,
years before this.
3 years ago actually. Because XCOM 2 is the game I mostly like played this year. Let me see. Like I don't actually buy that many games. I play lots of indie games, but AAA is not really my thing. So like the game I've been, yeah, XCOM 2 like would be my answer, but then you say it didn't come out this year, so I'm not even sure if there are games I played which came out. Wait, let's see, list of best games 2019.
You can also include indie games, that's also video games.
Yeah, sure, but then I have lots and lots of them. I don't have a favorite indie game, so let's see. And also they weren't. Yeah, no. Also, I don't think I played anything. Oh, actually, Wait. Oh, actually, I did. There is one indie game which I believe came out this year. It's a game by Daniel. What's his name? Daniel Mullins. Wait, let me check. Daniel Mullins. Yes, it's called The Hex, and it's an indie game about like video game characters, but from really like old games that no one plays anymore. And those characters are stuck in some. Well, they're not really stuck, but they meet up in a bar, and there's lots of plot points involving like the meta stuff about video games, stuff like game reviews or streaming or stuff like that. And I highly recommend you play it. It's called The Hex.
Okay, that was the final question. Is there other stuff you want to say?
No, I think no, I don't have anything else on my mind. If you have other questions you want to ask, I'll be glad to answer them.
No, every question I wanted to ask is asked. Well,
oh, okay.
Then for the viewers, all the links to the social media websites and all those things Adrien has will be in the description below.
Yeah, I have to send you all that. Oh god.
Now I hope that you have links.
Yeah, I do. I have lots of links.
Awesome.